Our next thread of the day is titled Visiting versus Helping. OP says, my first post in this group, this is more of a vent, but I want to see if others have experienced this. My mother-in-law lives out of state and just met our 3-month-old baby during her visit. She's staying with her brother and has been so excited to meet her. Tell me how she's here and all she does is take pictures of her. No help at all. Mind you, I have no family where I live and my husband and I are pretty much on our own. I really did think my mother-in-law would offer to help us out, knowing we do everything on our own, or even offer to help us clean, cook. She'll take pictures of little one, of the baby, but she isn't hands-on or proactive. I keep thinking if she wants the baby to be bigger so she doesn't have to care for her as much, or if she's like, because she really wanted a grandson. This is her first grandchild. I told my husband that his mum isn't proactive and hands-on, and honestly, she looks so uncomfortable holding our daughter. She also decides to spray an excessive amount of perfume when she comes over, and it makes baby so fussy. Once the baby starts crying, she'll give her to us right away and tell us she's hungry when she's just been fed. Maybe I had an expectation she would do her grandma duties versus being the photographer for little one, for the baby, and not doing anything at all. It seems she just came to visit and not get to know her daughter, her granddaughter, sorry. Anyone experience this? I have so many issues with so many of the things that OP says here. The first one is the expectation, like she does take pictures of her, but she's no help at all. I thought she'd offer to help us out, knowing that we do everything on our own, or even offer to help us clean and cook. I think obviously, look, it's really nice when in-laws come over and then they're really hands-on and they're really helpful. So my in-laws are very much those type of people where the moment that they are inside the house, they'll do whatever they can to help us out. If anything's a mess, they'll try to clean it. They'll, clean up the floors, etc. Whatever they can do to help, they will do it. Don't get me wrong, this is an amazing person to have in your life, and that's really something to be grateful for. And it's really great when people have the impulse to do that without you needing to ask, without you needing to needle them into it, without it having to be some kind of like quid pro quo thing where only if you help them out will they ever help you out. Of course, it's nice to have those people in your life. However, those people are special people. There's a sense of entitlement that comes through in this thread that I think is a little bit unhealthy. It's not good to expect people to help you of their own volition. That's not a good way to interact with the world. I would rather approach the world from the perspective of, okay, what can I do to help other people? And then hope that, what goes around comes around. Eventually, the people in your life will appreciate having you around so much that they'll want to help you without you needing to do anything else. So that part, I think, is not very cool. I also think that the criticism of she isn't hands-on, she isn't proactive, she looks uncomfortable holding our daughter. Now, I don't know how old your husband is. I don't know how long, how old your mother-in-law is. So I don't know how long it's been since she's interacted with a 3-month-old baby and held them and played with them and so on. But maybe she's just not used to it. Maybe she's forgotten what it's like. Maybe she didn't engage with your husband quite that much when he was a baby. Maybe she's just not comfortable with babies. Maybe she just doesn't have ideas about how to play with a baby. So there's so many other potential explanations and potential reasons for this. And it's kind of mean to me to be sitting there and watching her be uncomfortable and just go, hey, she just isn't hands-on or proactive. She's just, sitting there and taking pictures. And don't get me wrong, I do think that this obsession with taking pictures is an unhealthy one, like if that's the only way that you're interacting with your grandchild. But I suspect that the cause of this problem is just that she doesn't know how to bond with a baby properly. And that is the only reason that she looks awkward, she feels awkward when she's interacting with them. Yes, maybe she wants a baby to be a little bit bigger so that she can do more with them. That's a completely natural thing for grandparents to want. Babies, when they're very, very young, can only do so much, and they're not very interactive, and they don't really interact back with you when you try to do things with them. So it's completely normal and natural to be like, okay, she can only do so much as a grandma in this period of time. So that's normal, and I find it sad to criticize her for it so intensely. The perfume thing, you can talk to her about. be like, hey, the perfume's just a little bit intense for the baby, so she spends a while, she just gets fussy after you interact with her because it's just a bit much for her. That's not a big deal. That's a really simple conversation to have. It's a one-line thing, and if the mother-in-law is a reasonable person, then she'll just back up. She'll just do it. Like, it's not a problem to spray a little bit less perfume on. I also really don't like the last statement when she says, when the baby starts crying, she'll give her to us right away and tell us that she's hungry. A lot of mothers have way bigger problems with in-laws, grandparents, aunts, uncles, other people in the family not giving back the child when the child starts crying. Not to say that she can't make some kind of effort to calm her down, that's fine. But if she's like, hey, baby seems upset, that she must need something, it's completely fine for her to give her to you. I don't get it. I don't like the statement that she's not doing her grandma duties versus being a photographer and not doing anything at all. I think that is a terrible way of interacting with her as a grandmother, and there's a lot more that you could do there to help them build a better relationship over the long run. Like, this is something that will take years, right? It is not something that you can expect to happen over the course of one tiny little visit when your baby is 3 months old and can't really sit, doesn't babble, at most like looks at you and smiles at you. So yes, it's completely fine for your in-laws to come and just visit you without doing anything else. That's how I would read this situation. Some responses from the others. OP also says, also forgot to mention how obsessed she is with her phone. She'll be scrolling and scrolling, and I just roll my eyes because she's visiting for 2 weeks and she isn't even trying to bond with the baby. And this one is fair enough. I completely understand that people have really unhealthy habits when it comes to their phones. I actually think that for the grandparents, the current grandparent generation, I kind of understand where it comes from, because they had this experience of not being able to document anything, of access to photos being something that was really rare, and it being really difficult both to take a photo, to print it, to have it in an album, and so on. And now, you have access to it 100% of the time. And I can see why that's a little bit addictive. I get that that's a bad behavior. I actually would also get it if you're like, hey, I don't want my kid to just engage with you all the time and while you're on your phone the entire time. Like, that's not a good habit for them to be around, and I don't want them to learn that. That's completely fine. Like, you can talk to her about it. But there's not much you can do to bond with a 3-month-old unless you're the mum or maybe the dad. There's just not much that you can do. So it's not that big of a deal. One person says, I think it's fair to hope that someone would be helpful when there's a new baby. Did you express what your expectations were for this visit? Some people see it as just that, and if she didn't offer help, I wouldn't have expected it. If I did need help, I would have said upon her entering the home, hey, mother-in-law, so glad you're here. Can you help me with this while I do Y? And then we can all sit back and relax with the baby, something along those lines. Maybe for the next visit, have this discussion beforehand, and about the pictures. Hey, we'll take some pictures for you so you can be present with her. Or make a new rule, phones get checked at the door. It's a really funny way to deal with adults. Leave your phone at the door, please. Pretty much all of these things should be discussed either in the moment or before the visit. If she doesn't like that, then oh well, your baby, your house, your baby, your rules, your house, your rules. Fair enough. You can set up rules. I don't think you necessarily need to start treating your mother-in-law like she's a child who can't be trusted to put her phone down if you ask her to put her phone down. But yeah, like that you can change the course of the conversation that you have, so it's a much more positive one, and then it's not such a big deal, and then you don't get so bitter about it, and you don't get so angry about it either. Yeah. And OP here says, my mother-in-law is staying about 40 minutes away, and my husband is going back and forth with pick up and drop off. It's annoying, it's very selfish, but my husband is an only child, and my mother-in-law treats him as if he's her man sometimes. So I think she expects him to do everything for her. Honestly, it sounds to me like OP is bitter about a lot of things, and fundamentally what she's bitter about is the way that her mother-in-law interacts with her husband more than anything else. There is a certain amount, I don't know what happens, there's always a lot of history and context that's not present in these threads because people have lives, and there's a million interactions that happened before this particular event happened. And it seems to me like a lot of other people in the comments do agree with her read of the situation. So maybe I am the weird one here. But yeah, in general, it's better to be grateful when people are good to you rather than to be angry if they are not going out of their way to be good to you. And just don't expect anything from anyone. No one owes you anything. You know, that's the fundamental truth of it. Even if they're family, they do not owe you their time. They don't owe you their energy. They don't owe you a clean house. It's not their responsibility to do all of these things. And if they're interacting with your kids in a way that you don't like, then speak up. You can say so. And most good people will listen.